I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 7, 2019 Cumberland County Commissioners Workshop meeting. Please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Call the meeting to order at 9 a.m. and open up the floor at this time for public comment. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 3. I'm calling Commissioner DiFilippo, who will be presenting Sam Miller with an award for 35 years of service to Cumberland County. Sam, Judge Lacey, please come forward.
I'm not getting an award.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Sam, congratulations.
Yeah, we're good. I just read it.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are celebrating today Sam Miller Jr.'s 35 years of service to the county. He was hired in December 1983 as a juvenile probation officer 1. 5 years later, he was promoted to probation officer 2. July of 2001, promoted to probation supervisor, and then again promoted August 2004 to chief probation officer director. Sam, congratulations, and appreciate all that you've done for county and your many, many years of service.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. If anybody like to say anything?
Well, yeah.
Step up. They want to see you.
Well, I want to. It's been great working for the County of Cumberland. It's been an enjoyable 35 years as I'm nearing the end of my career. And I do want to thank the commissioners. I think it does take some long-term vision to make a commitment to keep a focus on juvenile justice, because that criminal justice piece is such a large animal. You guys have done that. Not every county has done that, and I think it's reaped benefits. And I've also had the benefit of really working for an extraordinary court system dating back to the Dale Sugar was here when I was first there. And through all the years, Cumberland County courts have been exceptional and really stood out, particularly in comparison to a lot of our neighboring counties in terms of their work with county administration. They've been cooperative, and they've always appointed or allowed more senior judges and interested judges to handle juvenile court. Judge Placey's a good example. He doesn't serve over juvenile court, but he does many other things because he was forced to do it. He does it because he's committed to it, and he's passionate about it, and it's easy to work for somebody like that. And our other judge that does juvenile court, Judge Mansland, is built from the same molds. That's made my experience really good, and I'm actually very appreciative of that. And in addition to that, I have the benefit of having a highly professional staff that I'm very comfortable is going to continue to move the department forward. So I feel good about it. Thank you.
Judge Placey?
Well, the only comment I could make is I can't take credit for anything. Sam's done this with the help of the staff that he's developed. He talks about his staff being professional. It's because of his leadership. And he calls it's a career, but it has been a wonderful career for the people of Cumberland County. We're better for having you. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everybody move over just like 3 steps. Just kind of pull yourself over this way. That looks good. I'm going to take several.
This isn't my normal position. Normally you'd be doing something. Come on. It's tough.
That's 1.
It's better be as good as the frog.
You're in it. And 1. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll move on to agenda item 4, and I'll call on Tammy Bender to discuss the budget resolution 2019-8. Tammy?
Finance is requesting approval of 2 budget resolutions. The first one is for drug and alcohol. They're increasing revenue and expenses by $553,105. This includes $244,872 of funding for the opioid intervention court, and $308,233 goes towards outpatient, inpatient, and information referral services. The second resolution is for MHIDD. They're increasing revenue and expenses by $1,037,473. It's for the startup of a long-term structured residence program and training. And there's no impact to the general fund for either one.
Any questions for Tammy? Thank you, Tammy. Next, we'll move on to agenda item 5, contracts and grants, and I will turn it over to our new deputy chief clerk, Lawrence Ford.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like you to look at agenda items 5, Roman numeral 1, A through C. There are existing grants, contract extensions, or addenda with no additional cost or increase to the county, and they include the following departments: 2 in Aging and Community Services, 2 in Children and Youth Service, and 1 in Drug and Alcohol. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Hearing none, then we'll move on to agenda item number 5, Roman numeral 2. Which consists of new contracts, vendor services, grants, and contracts with increases and decreases to the county. And the first one is with children and youth agreements, and Jamie Reber will introduce those.
Good morning, Commissioners. The first contract we have is for Avanco. This is our IT program that we use for tracking our clients. This is there's a hosting fee included in this, which we pay quarterly, and then not to exceed amounts which are used for any upgrades that are done, either mandated by the state or that the counties have come together and decided need to be updated. The next one is our Cornell Access out-of-home services contract. They have requested a 2.5% increase across the board. We use this program heavily. Their rates are within the state maximum allowed and are well within comparable to other programs of the same kind. The next contract is for Family Care Services. This is one of our foster care vendors. They have requested a minimal increase, 1% or a little less in their programs for their foster care. And again, they are within the state maximum allowable and comparable to other programs. And our final one is George Junior Republic. They have requested a 2% increase across the board. They have their drug and alcohol and group home programs that we use. And again, they are also within the state maximum allowable and comparable to other programs.
Jim, you know the Avanco, they're pretty healthy increases here over the prior year.
Right.
37% for hosting increase and a 29%.
So what happened is last year we only had a 9-month contract with them because we had done a 3-month extension, so that's why it looks like the increases are a bit higher. But really, if you factor in the other 3 months that we did the extension for, it's only about I think it was only about 2% for the hosting fees. And then the other 2 are just based upon what we think they may be doing upgrades for. We didn't come anywhere near maxing our budget out last year with them. And it is funded mostly through our IT grant for the state.
All right, so you're saying what you identify here in the chart is 2017-18 was only for 9 months as opposed to 12?
Correct, because we had done a 3-month extension while the state was working on contract negotiations with them.
So should the chart reflect that, showing the full annual cost?
Yeah, well, I can tell you the full 12 months was $37,219.60 for the hosting fee last year, and this year we're asking $38,249.52, so it's a 2.7% increase.
Well, maybe we could get the chart.
I'll make sure to see an updated one.
I'm not comparing apples then. Thanks.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to Melissa Smith. We'll be discussing 2 agreements for the Claremont Nursing and Rehabilitation, and Brad King will discuss one via video teleconferencing.
Good morning, Commissioners. The 2 contracts that I have are Adara Healthcare Staffing and Ready to Help. These are both contracts for temporary nursing meditators, RNs, LPNs, and CNAs. And they're, we use the agency to fill in when we're short with our own staff. The contracts are before you, the one is for about $25,000, and the other, Ready to Help, is for $45,000. The rates are very consistent with what we're currently paying other agencies.
Are these new agencies, Melissa?
Yes, they are. We continue to struggle with the agencies that we have contracts with being able to provide staff. I actually have one more that we're working through, and hopefully we should be good then.
Okay, well, we do what we have to do, but this isn't a solution to the problem that we're having. But we'll talk about that more at the next meeting of the Claremont Review Committee.
Yeah. Melissa, this tells me we have 10 active agencies that we can potentially pull from to fill in gaps.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, we'll call on Brad King.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have the contract for the chiller replacement with the contract with Train for $419,925. Again, this is to replace the chillers that we talked about for the capital approval that supplies air conditioning for the majority of our, except for the tower building. Again, that needs replaced. Will be terrific. And the Freon is a Freon for getting very expensive. So we're looking for approval to move ahead with this project with Train. It is a co-star's contract, again, for $419,925. Any questions?
We're going to try to get this all done before we end into the winter, summer, right?
That's correct. There's a 9-week lead time to have the equipment built, plus the freight, so we're pushing the envelope here. Luckily, we have the 2 chillers. They can take one down at a time, so we should be okay. We did check into that for wiring and all that. We will be able to operate one while the other one is being installed.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
Are there any other questions? No. Hearing none, we'll move on. Next, Eric Rakovich will discuss the grant award for the District Attorney's Office. Eric?
Good morning, Commissioners. The grant before you is an acceptance for $84,000. It's a Cumberland Forensic Science Improvement Grant. It's a no-match grant, and it supports our laboratory accreditation and teaches and provides funding to do some crime scene classes for police department.
This is 86 though.
Oh, it's even better than I thought. 86,000.
Just make sure where that extra 2,000 is going.
Very hard.
Are there any questions for Eric? Hearing no one move on. Thanks, Eric.
Address is so already.
Next, I'll call on Jack Carroll to discuss the agreement for drug and alcohol. Jack?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a request to amend our contract with one of our provider agencies, Positive Recovery Solutions. They're a unique provider. They provide Vivitrol injections, which is one of the 3 forms of medication-assisted treatment for individuals with opioid use disorders. They do so on a mobile basis. They have a clinic. They converted a recreational vehicle into a clinic on wheels, and they travel to different parts of the state. They travel to Cumberland County about twice a month. They work in partnership with the RAISE project. Their work supports the efforts of the Vivitrol program that we have at Cumberland County Prison, and also the Opioid Intervention Court. And so The reason for the amendment is that Alkermes, the pharmaceutical company that sells Vivitrol, has increased the cost. And so Positive Recovery Solutions is then passing that increased cost on to us. This is funded with our state and federal dollars. The increase in cost is $28 per injection. That's about a 2.9% increase. Questions?
Next, Dr. Jordan will discuss the incorporation agreement for ERP.
Good morning. The import contract is for the Lawson software. It's our maintenance agreement with Infor. It's a 3-year contract for $703,000. Locking into a 3-year contract allows us to only get an increase of 3% each year, as opposed to if you did 1 year at a time, it would be closer to 4 or 5%.
Are there any questions?
What? I'm sorry, why, to me anyway, this cost seems crazy. What is being maintained? What is maintenance? This is a software program?
It's Lawson software. It's our financial software. It provides all the updates every year, any changes in the software, any issue resolution, help desk.
Any other questions?
A lot of money. It's not my specialty, I admit.
Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on. Next is Susan Carball will discuss 3 agreements for MHIDD. Sue?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. These 3 contracts are for our early intervention program. The first one, International Corporate Training and Marketing, is for language interpretation services. It's an increase of $9,972. Feeding Little Bellies is nutrition services. It's an increase of $7,103. And My Therapy Tree provides occupational, physical, and speech therapies, and also special instruction. And it's an increase of $94,896. These are all funded by our state dollars. Any questions?
Thank you.
Next, moving on to agenda item 6, and I'll call on Solicitor Brennan to discuss the order for East Pennsboro Township.
Morning, Commissioners. This is an instrument I prepared at your request. Commissioner Kurtzler came up with the idea, and what it does is it prohibits a tax assessment appeal by any property within the East Pennsboro Township LERTA District for a 5-year period after the expiration of the LERTA 10-year period. There are 3 exceptions to that prohibition. One is that if the county does a countywide reassessment, the property owner can appeal. The other one is that if the county does a assessment of improvements due to additional construction beyond the LERTA period within that 5-year period, the property owner, of course, can appeal that assessment by the county. And the third would be if there's an appeal, a tax assessment appeal by any taxing district. You have the right by law, so does the township, and so does the school district, to make an assessment appeal. So that option is also open for you, that obviously the property owner can join in on that appeal and try to change the assessment.
The second option, that was improvements that are made within the LERTA window?
No. The improvements made within the LERTA window will still be assessed by the county and be subject to whatever period of exemption or percentage of exemption that exists when they're done.
So if they build in phases.
Right, exactly.
That covers that period.
Right. After the LERTA period has expired, which is, I'll say generally 10 years, if improvements are then made to the property within the 5-year period, the county will reassess the improved value, and they have a right to appeal that.
And so we're talking about, it's a 10-year learn mode, and then a 5-year period, so our
12 years.
total is 14 years, so barring those circumstances.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, and first of all, I want to thank our solicitor for working on this and putting this together, and we also been signed off by the other parties that are involved with this. And it, you know, again, we go back, this essentially, what this is a protection for the taxpayers beyond the time of the learning tax break for a period of 5 years. And based on the fact that apparently there's been some experience in other jurisdictions with respect to these programs, that, you know, as soon as the tax break is finished and the development has been attracted and approved, once the special tax break period expires, entities run to the County Board of Assessment Appeal to seek a reduction in their updated assessments so they can get an additional tax break. And this protects the taxpayers against that for a period of 5 years. There are exceptions. They're all reasonable exceptions, as I think were explained by Keith. And I think I'm hoping that pretty much your comments with respect to that could be preserved in the record here today, because this will be beyond probably any of our terms as to when this actually will take effect. So I think it's important that the intent of this and Keith's comments be spread upon this record, so that somebody 15 years from now knows what we meant. Okay. So thank you.
Any additional comments?
I would just mention it, you know, I think the history of recent awards has been where we've been very reluctant to do anything to hinder people's right to appeal, but the exceptions that you listed out are very reasonable, and I'm in concurrence with Commissioner Kirchner, this is a reasonable protection for taxpayers.
Thank you, Keith. Moving on to agenda item 7, I'll call on Bethany to discuss the advertising for the election survey. Bethany.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm seeking your permission to move forward with the bidding process to have a firm survey our 118 polling locations for ADA compliance.
Any questions for Bethany?
Just that, for the benefit of my colleagues, Bethany discussed this at length at our most recent reorganization meeting of the Board of Elections, and you know, again, indicated my question as to why we have to go through all this, but in any event, it would be a tremendous burden on staff to have to do this work. And this proposal is somewhere in the neighborhood of $32,000, which I think is, you know, hopefully that's going to be it, right? That's the factor. So it's a shame that we have to hire somebody to do this, but the fact is we don't have a huge staff in our Bureau of Elections, and to do this work would, you know, take them away from their other duties in terms of getting ready for elections and so forth. So,
Plus, I don't think they would have the expertise to know what all they have to do.
Bethany, is this part of the settlement we agreed to?
Yes, this would be for the, we have to have them all surveyed by March of 2020.
yeah, but perhaps we could send the invoice to Attorney Butler, Bruce.
Okay, any additional questions for Bethany? Thank you, Bethany. Next, moving on to agenda item, below Bethany is Justin Miller, who's joining us video teleconferencing to discuss advertising for bids for yard waste equipment. Justin?
Morning, Commissioners. So I'm seeking your approval to go out to bid for maintenance and repair services for our trauma screen and our 2 leaf burners that are part of our intermunicipal yard waste equipment sharing program. The current contract was going to be expiring, so it's time to go out to bid.
Any questions for Justin? Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Next, we move on to agenda item 8, and I'll call on Ron Snow to discuss the food bids for CNRC. Ron?
Good
Morning, Commissioners. We had 4 vendors submit participation bids to participate in the weekly CNRC food bid and the state food pantry program. So we're requesting you approve all 4 vendors.
Any questions for Ron? Thank you, Ron. Next, I'd like to call on John Locke to discuss bid openings from ongoing.
Good morning, Commissioners. We received 4 bids from 4 separate vendors: Best Wash Incorporated, Cold Smith Lawn Care, J&A Lawn Care, and Myers Landscaping Lawn Care. This is for lawn care for county-owned facilities. The bids came in, and low bid for the nursing home was $43,800, and that's over a 5-year period. All these bids are for a 5-year aggregate total. The old price was $22,200, so it was an increase of $21,600. J&A Lawn Care, aging was a low bid of $10,440. That was an increase of $1,440. The prison came in at $34,080. That was an increase of $13,080. Public safety came in at $18,480. That was a savings of $1,320 based on the old contract. The MHIDD 1615 Rittner came in at $6,120. That was a savings of $2,880. The Allen Road facility came in at $16,200. That stayed the same. The fire training station came in at $9,600, and that was a savings of $600. And 1601 Rittner came in at $13,800. That stayed the same. These are the low bids. And Cold Smith Lawn Care, the Allen Road facility, the fire training station, and the 1601 Rittner were low bid by Cold Smith Lawn Care. Recommendation of award to Cold Smith Lawn Care, who has been doing our lawn care for several years. Myers Landscaping came in low bid for the nursing home. Recommend award to Myers Landscaping for the 5-year contract. And J&A Lawn Care came in low bid on aging, prison, public safety, MHIDD. This is a contract that we never used before, but they are low bid, and we did check out several references. The recommendation is to award the bids to those contracts.
Any questions for John?
John, what's the total acreage that we're looking at in this footprint?
I don't have that right now.
Yes. That's okay. You gotta think about that long. Don't worry about it. But I'll just say what I've said before. That's a lot of money for just a boat. I'd love to see us shrink the amount of, we convert some of that area, gardens, stone, whatever. I think that's not the best use of taxpayers' dollars. So continue thinking about ways to downsize our obligation there over the grass. I think that would be a good service to the public.
Now, this is over 5, have we always awarded over a 5-year period? It's a 5-year period. Those totals over 5 years. It's based on 24 million per year.
Okay, so if it's less than 24,
It'll be less. And we had a year last year where we knew there was a lot of rain. So sometimes it exceeds the 24, and in a drought condition, slow.
Any other questions for John? Thanks, John. Next, we want to agenda item 9, and Kirkstone will be discussing the approval request for NTM Engineering. Commissioners, please note that this is an action requested item for today. Kirk?
Sure. Commissioners, as you're aware, HRG is our county bridge engineer. They use subcontractors to do some of our bridge inspections. Also meets PennDOT's DDE requirements. They propose to use NTM Engineering, who meets that requirement, also who PennDOT pre-qualified. So we're asking for action today to be able to add NTM. With your approval, I will make that approval in the PennDOT CCMS system.
Your that's been done.
Yes.
I'll make a motion. There's no questions. I'll make a motion to approve the addition of NTM engineering.
Second.
Keith, this will require a change in the contract that needs.
No, I believe it provides for subcontractors, and this is one
Base
approved by you.
contract.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions, further comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Next, we move on to agenda item 10, and it's discussion regarding assessment policy. Back in October, Commissioner Hertzler, myself, Sean Schultz, Bonnie Mahoney met to discuss what was needed from assessment as far as deliverables. And at that time, we asked them to provide us with this assessment policy. We formatted the assessment policy that Sean Schultz provided. And I think, Keith, you had looked at this prior.
I did.
A long time ago. It's been a while.
In recent.
Yeah. And so Keith was fine with it, and so we added it to the agenda for your signatures and to be adopted. So I would ask that this be approved on Monday. You all are okay with it? Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we move on to agenda item 11, and there are 2 letters of support that are being requested. Flo had received those requests, so I'll let her discuss what they're about. Flo.
Good morning again. The first letter of support that's being asked for is from Rich Farr at Rabbit Transit, and it's dealing with the Department of Human Services and state level medical assistance transportation program. As you're aware, that they are looking to broker transportation for medical assistance, of which we provide that service. The thought process for that was they thought that they could save the state $15 million, plus or minus. But the local authorities, the transportation authorities, are concerned that it may actually cost them more money, upwards of $31 million. So there are 2 bills going around, one in the House and one in the Senate, to delay the brokering until further study could be done. So what these letters of support to each of the House and the Senate is asking for co-sponsors for that bill that's going around.
Any questions for Flo on that?
No.
Okay, so we want to move to the next one.
And the next, I'll call on Shireen Farr to discuss the letter of support from Lemoyne Middle School. Shireen?
Good morning, Commissioners. Regarding the Lemoyne Middle School project, of which track LMS is the underrated, and has been for the past year. We've been in this project for going on nearly 2.5 years. And we have, based on market conditions and financial feasibility conditions, we determined that we need to go down the public funding route in order to secure part of the funding gap. So we did put in an application for $1 million through the RACP program. The application period expired ended January 31st, and we are in the process now of obtaining letters of support. We have already secured letters of support from Senator Regan, County Planning, and the redevelopment authorities. We are seeking your support for this RACP grant. In addition, tonight we'll be making the same request of the Lemoyne Borough Council, and also we have a request out to our Representative Delozier.
Any questions for Shireen?
Yeah, I have a question. So where does the community stand on this project in terms of the demolition of the school?
We'll know more tonight. Our sense is they want in general, they want the building safe as is and rehabilitated for a new use. To date, there has been no interest in that by any private party, and there's not enough funding to be able to do the project in that manner. The project is currently spec'd to be residential, market rate housing in the back, parking in the middle, and commercial retail in the front. And that falls within the lines of what the current zoning requirements are.
Any additional questions?
So the answer to the question is the community sentiment is not in favor of demolition of the building.
I would say that's true, yeah.
Okay. let us know what happens tonight, because that may determine as to whether or not I support this.
I just want to mention that I think it's difficult to determine community-wide sentiment based on a handful of vocal opponents that show up at a public meeting. I don't doubt that they would like to freeze time and preserve it in place as it is, but the bottom line is that that is not financially feasible. That's why there's no private developer willing to come in, because the abatement of asbestos that's involved and the other difficult costs simply aren't viable.
So has Borough Council taken a position on this?
Not officially, no. Tonight, I think we'll get the first sense of, what they're thinking.
Okay. I'd be interested
Commissioner
in what the
Alberta is right, it is a handful of people that want it saved. At the end of the day, it's council's decision as to which voices they, want to listen to. This project will not work unless we do something, and public funding is needed to even have a chance to be successful.
And this is precisely the type of project that the REC was formed to address. We have a property nobody wants to touch. It's essentially rotting away in the middle of a core community. So the idea is to find something feasible to happen to that property, and that has to be financially viable. And what they're asking for is not financially viable. So we can either do something that is viable, or can sit there and continue to rot.
Sharita, have all the zoning issues been resolved?
Yeah, we originally went after a rezone last year, and it was denied. So we are working within the confines of the existing zoning. And that is it's an impediment, to the project. We're trying to work within the confines. That's what the community wanted, and that's what we're attempting to do. There is a gap. We've gone so far as in some of the designs and in talking to potential end users for the front commercial space to try to save as much of the historic facade look and feel, save the green, save the trees. We're being as sensitive as we can, but at the end of the day, the market will dictate what can go there, and the finances have to pencil out. So we are the owner. We own that property. We're making monthly payments on that property. It is deteriorating daily, and it's been vacant for 5 years. So it's our hope that with some infusion of some public funding, that we can get the private and the public together, and we can get a good catalyzing project at that critical location on Market Street.
So you still need rezoning by the,
No.
you don't need it?
We're working within the confines of zoning.
Oh, okay.
It's highly likely we will need some concessions on things like parking. There is nothing that would go there today in its current arrangement where parking would not need a concession. So certainly, we know for sure we're going to need some parking concessions. And we have been very upfront and forthright with the borough and the community about the challenges, that we're working on for this site.
All right. Well, just let me know whether the borough takes a position. I appreciate that.
Yep, I will.
Thanks, Sharita.
Thank you, Shareen. Next, move on to agenda item 12, and call Commissioner Eichelberger to discuss the 4 reappointments for the IDA board.
Yeah, you have the document in front of you. We have 4 individuals who've been on the board for a while, and their term's coming up. I don't have a lot to add to this. Mr. Tuckey had talked to me a few weeks ago and reminded me that these were coming up, and said that everybody's are regular attendees, they're positive contributors to the proceedings of the IDA, and he asked me if there would be any difficulties with these names. I wasn't aware of any, passed that along to him. And based on his recommendation, I'm personally going to support these candidates for reappointment.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question that doesn't have anything to do with the quality of these individuals, but I do want to ask a question. I don't know that there's term limits. I know we discussed this before about different boards and commissions as to whether or not we have some with term limits, we have some that don't have term limits. That was my first question, so I am kind of curious as to the tenure of some of these individuals. That's number one. Number two, is there anything that requires that and I don't know the residency, but is there anything that requires that these folks be residents of Cumberland County?
If I could answer that, I believe the Authorities Act requires either residency or being a taxpayer in the municipality. So you can be outside of the municipality if you own property and pay taxes or pay taxes. Then you qualify under the Act.
Okay, well, I'd like to verify, check on that before we move.
I'm sure all these individuals are Cumberland County residents.
And there's 3 of them.
Okay, if they are, then I, would know that. I was just curious.
It's a valid thing. I think we should look into that and just request that information. And I don't disagree about the idea of the tenure, but I mean, that's come up a number of times in the past. If we're going to look at it, we should do it uniformly. And I mean, they are an independent authority, but they require our approval for appointments. So
that's your ability to enforce a tenure concept.
So, but I would say that perhaps we should have some discussion about how putting all the organizations on the table and what our degree of influence on that is, whether we want to do that, but we should look at all of them at the same time.
Yeah, the only other question I have too is that we apparently have some 2-year terms and some 3-year terms.
Yeah, a lot of boards do that, so you don't have everybody cycling off at the same time.
Yeah. Does that mean then that the next term, if one of these individuals was appointed to a 2-year term, their next term would then be a 3-year term? Is that?
No.
No?
I mean, they could be nominated for a 3-year term.
Well, I think the Authorities Act requires us to do a 5-year term that are staggered. I'm not sure how there's a 2- or 3-year term cycle. There may be a basis for it, but I'm not sure what it would be.
Okay, well.
I would just mention this, Nyper is, it seems recent to me. I mean, she's our newest appointee.
No, she's
relatively new, but as I get older, things seem like last year, they were 10 years ago. So why don't we go ahead and check on the tenure of each of these members, and then I would say we should have a discussion. Personally, I don't see any reason to hold these up, because that should be a wide-ranging discussion regarding how to formally apply this.
No, I agree. I just, brought it up. The main question I had was, and again, I don't have any doubt if everybody's resident of Cumberland County or has owns property in Cumberland County. I'd like to know that, if that's the truth. So.
One last clarification. So I know we have several boards that have non-residents on, and our unofficial, I guess, kind of stipulation is they just have to have some type of substantial affiliation in the county, i.e. work here or something of that nature. You saying the Municipal Authorities Act is more stringent on that?
It's very specific. In fact, I just noticed that this is an industrial development authority, which has its own, I'll say, statutory authority. And I forget if it's under the umbrella of the Authorities Act or on its own. So there may be a difference that allows different terms there.
Okay.
I can tell you the normal authority of the Act is 5-year term.
That's all right.
Well, I'd be prepared to move forward if we just get some answers to these questions before Monday.
Next we'll move on to agenda item 13, and call for first vote to discuss the appointment for the Conservation District Board.
Okay, well, we're all aware of the tragic death of Wilbur Wolf, who served for about a quarter-century in the Cumberland County Conservation District Board. He was also a long-time school director and president of the board of one of our school districts. The board reorganized. Wilbur was the chair of the conservation district at the last meeting, and named Duff George to chair as the new chair, and then Glenn Kimball as the vice chair. But there's a vacancy as a result of Wilbur's passing. There was 1 year remaining on Wilbur's term. And we all received an email from Carl, I believe, noting that there's different methods of filling the vacancy. One of them would be to provide for a more prompt decision by appointing an associate director, which could happen in a timely fashion, whereas the other would necessitate the various nominating entities that I guess are responsible under law to nominate candidates, which would take several months, which would mean that much of the remainder of Wilbur's term could expire by the time someone ends up getting appointed to the remainder of his term. So the recommendation is to one of the associate directors, public associate directors, step forward. His name is Mike Ward. I think we got some background information on Mike. So I would recommend we go that route to fill the remainder of Wilbur's term.
Looks very well qualified.
Yep. Good choice.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 14, we will begin with Commissioner DeFilippo for the Commissioner's Liaison Report.
Thanks, Andy. Got one is for the county library system. They recently elected their officers for 2019. No changes. Paul Fisher will remain president. He's from Frederickson. William Gould will remain vice president. He's from Shippensburg. And Jonathan Williams will remain treasurer, and he represents Simpson Library. Canopy streaming video service was purchased from the library system's collections budget. Staff are setting up parameters that authenticate borrowers so that the service is only accessible to Cumberland County residents with a membership card in good standing. 20 self-checkout workstations with e-commerce for Express Lane, which is a self-service fine payment by credit card, were installed throughout the library system. This is one of the issues, one of the performance issues in the 2018 conditional grant goals that have been met. The board continues to advocate the passage of Senate Bill 3560 for funding of the Museum and Library Services Act. Passed the Senate and House in late December, and this reauthorizes crucial federal funding through the Library System and Technology Act to Pennsylvania libraries and libraries across the nation. And finally, all 2018 goals were completed for the conditional grants, and Carolyn Blatchley will be making a presentation to the commissioners later in February during the finance meeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner DeFilippo. Commissioner Herbst.
My colleagues and others will be pleased to note that I have nothing to report.
Well, that is truly noteworthy.
Jim, thank you for that involved. You open yourself up.
Someday somebody's going to open the record.
I invited it. So I invited it.
Somebody's going to open the record someday, and they're going to look at it and say, that can't be right.
Then they're going to do all right.
That's right. I guess that comes back on me.
Thank you, Commissioner
Okay, I just had two brief items, and one is an update I received from Mr. Kirk Stoner of the Planning Department, who happens to be here in person. So, Kirk, you mentioned about the housing affordability effort, the floodplain maps, and the annual building permit survey. Why don't you just talk to these guys? They hear enough from me. So.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, our housing affordability effort that we briefed the board on, working with Shippensburg University to look at some of the drivers of affordability in the county. We started that. Shippensburg University put the scope together, we've reviewed it. We also have a survey that we're piggybacking on some work that the Housing and Redevelopment Authority is doing, with some other housing work they're doing. That will be going out. So should see some results from that in the June timeframe. On the floodplain maps, we heard from FEMA this week that our updated floodplain map should be back to us about April, May timeframe. We've heard several due dates though in the past. We started this effort in 2016, so we'll wait and see till we actually get the preliminary maps. But once we get the preliminary maps, that drives a period of public review and also municipal review that'll last about 90 days, and there's followed up by FEMA review to that. So there are changes to the floodplain extents throughout the county, especially in Mount Holly Springs, Borough, Shippensburg area, where we do flood studies.
Can I ask a question on this line? Sorry, I didn't take any time.
You got
this time. Kirk, I was just notified today that the County Housing and Redevelopment Authority are undertaking preparation of a 2020-2024 five-year strategic plan to determine how future housing, urban development, community development block grant home partnership funds will be spent. And they're talking about public meetings and holding a housing summit. Are you familiar? How does this work in with what we're doing, with the study by Shippensburg University?
Sure. So that effort you're speaking of is much larger, Jim. The effort by Shippensburg University is only about a $5,000 assignment. I think what you'll see is the assignment with Shippensburg University is a much deeper dive into affordability issues than what you get into with the other work that the Housing and Redevelopment Authority is doing. We have the two coordinated so that we're not duplicating effort with the background data. The survey that we're actually doing is part of that effort, so we're incorporating questions from the affordability side into the survey for that effort. So Kate's doing a good job of coordinating it too.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure that the right hand knew what the left hand was doing, and we're all on the same track.
Building permits, sir?
What's that?
Did you mention the building permits?
Oh, no, you did. You want to cover that?
No, it says here. Surveys of municipalities are due back the 22nd. After that, we will summarize the results and make a presentation to the board on growth trends we are seeing. So says Kirk Stoner. That's everything I have for planning, unless you want to add.
Good job.
You read that well. The only other thing, I got a last minute update from Justin, recycling. Could have had him cite it too. He was on earlier. Let's see, January at the recycling was better than January of the previous year. Average 28 customers, 2,274 pounds per day. And that was 18. Now at 19, we averaged 30 customers a day, 2,843 versus 2,274. That's a substantial uptake there. And that's per day again. So February's off to a bit of a slow start, but we have this Saturday we're open, I believe, so that'll probably be our catch-up day, perhaps. Numbers are showing winter times is slower. That's not a surprising trend. So, okay, work continues on the 2019 Household Hazardous Waste Program. Remember, Kirk talked to us before about making that an ongoing initiative in the county. So we're still doing some due diligence on that, and we will be meeting with you folks at a finance committee meeting upcoming to update us on that program. So that's everything I have.
Thank you, Mr. Eisberger. Thank you, Kirk.
Oh, I just mentioned again the CADIC CEO search is ongoing. Oh yeah, we are closing it. We expect it. I have communicated to the board. We expect resolution at the March meetings.
I would like to report that an executive session was held on the following date, 2019, February 5th at 11 a.m. regarding personnel issues. I would also like to request an executive session be held directly after this meeting regarding a real estate transaction and personnel issues. Under other business today, we have Dana Best discussing the Cantata addendum, and she is here because Bob Ames was not able to attend, so please don't shoot the messenger.
Please. It's okay if you do.
So Bob requested a meeting with Sandy
Mark and I yesterday to discuss Cantata and how to get their medical records moving. A little bit of history, we had recommended that they reach out to Cantata, find out how much it would cost to send a specialist. Well, Bob came back with $5,000. So we're recommending that they enter into the agreement, move forward. This was yesterday, we haven't had time to look at it, make sure that it is gonna meet our needs, but we wanted to brief you instead of coming Monday and saying, can you please sign this? To give you a little bit of background, Mark still needs to review, it's 1 page. I'm imagining it will end up being an addendum to the existing contract, there's no terms and conditions. This is stating that it's basically on-site training and help setting up their dashboards and some other things. And if that is truly all that's not working, it should take them a week to get it up and running, and it could just be a training issue. I don't know that 100% for sure because I haven't been involved in the medical record. But if we would try to go in with the new software at this point in time, we would be bucking up against when we have to go live with managed Medicaid. So if this will get us through until we can do a better analysis, that's what my recommendation would be.
I'm missing some facts here, so forgive me if that's a dumb question, but why has the training component not already been integrated into the adoption?
It has, but I believe there's several things going on.
Yeah.
One, I think that the staff there thought it was going to be a fully delivered end product.
Yeah.
Instead, but Cantata gives you training so that you can develop the product yourself in the manner that you want it.
Okay.
And so I don't think that they fully understood how to do it.
So there's more customization to you than what we may have understood.
Correct. At the outgate. From what I'm seeing from what Cantata wrote, I think we're closer than they thought. Now, Heather has been talking about one section that Cantata doesn't do. And I don't know how critical that is to their function, but we might have to come up with another way of doing that, whether it's another software vendor or something in the interim. But this would get us to every individual can put all the medical records in the system. And that's what they've been fighting for the last 6 months or so.
Is Cantata the name of the company?
It
or is
is.
that the software?
It used to be Keen.
Oh, that's
It's the one that transitioned, and we have the hybrid, and they're trying to go to all one software.
We weren't too keen.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I don't know that Cantata will end up being our permanent vendor, but we need to at least get through the next year until we can do it, as Mark would say, the right way, where you do a full needs assessment and go out in the market and figure out what will meet your needs.
So, what they sent you then, is that the addendum portion that you're talking about?
This is, Mark, I don't think has seen it yet. It is very short and sweet, so I'm not sure that we may need to look into it a little further and talk to Heather and find out what they're having trouble with to make sure the scope meets what their needs are.
And then, is that something we have to have Keith review?
I don't know. I don't know that there's going to be any terms and conditions in it because we have an existing contract. But I'll give it to them. But yes, we were planning on giving it to them.
Mark, you had something.
We've been working with Cantata for the last several months, but we've been having daily and calls every other day to make sure they're progressing with implementing and configuring the system to meet the needs. So there has been a lot of work going on, and so I think this is just the training aspect to make sure our staff can, there's some customizations we can do on our own. So dashboards, as Dana talked about, and some other things, and we just really need to get professional in here to train them on how to use the software. There probably are some other issues, whether it's performance issues and things like that with the application. But I think as if we can do something like this and get them up and running, I think we'll see some good benefits to that.
Was there maybe a gap in terms of knowing what deliverables we were contracting for, or what would we do differently? I'm not looking to point fingers, it's just what would we do differently next time if we were doing this over?
Good question. I think it'd be more involvement with the staff and figuring out what their true needs were. We did meet, how long ago was that, 6 months ago or a year ago, with other vendors to come in and see if they could meet our needs better at the nursing home. And upon some assessment, they realized Keene did have the capabilities to do what they needed to. So we had to buy some extra modules and things like that. And so I think that's what they're trying to configure and set up right now.
And that process was very helpful on the financial side because Cantata did help us fix some of the issues that were happening in the business office, and that's been automated a little bit more. So from that standpoint, the business office is happy with Cantata, whereas they were ready to jump ship before.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
No, I mean, that's where I was trying to understand, because they were proposing that we go to a new vendor, right, before.
Early on, I think they were proposing a new vendor, and I think that's just a comfort level of, we brought in people from outside the county that have been in non-government or non-nursing home facilities, and so they're used to different software, and they're used to the way things are implemented, and things are just, here's the software, here's how it works, go. And it's a little bit different here.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Okay, is there any other business to bring before the Board of Commissioners today? Hearing none, we are